So how about a bird call? You know, like
Oh!
Wait, no,
Wait, hold
no,
on.
that sounds like a woman in distress.
Oh!
Yeah, louder there.
Oh! Oh, that's more like, yeah, I like that one.
No, that's like what did that sound like? Like
I know, is that good?
Okay, that is your Jen is just she's losing everyone and nobody that's the nobody cares bird call. Okay?
All right, got it.
So here we go. We are back with another fabulous edition of This Is Jen, revamped edition. This is episode number 36, but this is episode number 2 of the new and improved version. I have Shady Ray here producing in studio. Glad you're back, Shady.
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here again.
I've gotten so much good feedback on bringing you in. I think people feel safer that you'll like keep me under control. Like there's someone in the room to pick up a heavy object and hit me with it.
I have a lasso. That's what they need to imagine. I have a lasso.
We have got the producer lasso. Yes, that is part of the standard equipment for every episode of This Is Jen. All right, we are going to jump right into it, and I'm going to get to the topic that is on the minds of everyone I know, and that is the hellscape that all of your lives have descended into now that school is back in session. Can we be honest about that? And in fact, so you know that I've set up this new phone number. I want you to call me and I want you to tell me honestly, how your school year experience is going. And what is that number? It's new. I don't have it memorized. 512-222-3523. I want you to call me. Tell me honestly, how your back to school experience is going. Now, if your back to school experience is anything like that of my friends, you might want to use a fake name and location. Normally people will be like, hey, this is Allison from Roswell, Georgia. It's fine. If you want to be like, this is Melissa.
I like but
this is Marge from Turks and Caicos. I'm about to burn down my kid's school. But I don't want the podcast apps to ban me in a safe way. I will make sure that everyone is out and safe, and then I'm burning it down because I can't take any more of this. Calls like that are not only fine, they are most likely to get played on this show. 512-222-3523. I've actually already just today the calls have started coming in. People are already leaving calls saying you can't play this on the air, and then they're getting really real, which is fine. I mean, sure. I checked this personally. If that's one way to get in touch with me. People are going to figure it out that Shady knows this is true. I do not listen to voicemails on my personal phone number. I'm just like, what is the?
There's like 400 waiting.
Yeah, it's like, are we in a time machine back to 1993? Like, I'm not listening to that. Text me. But on my 512-222-3523 show number, I listen to them all.
Yes.
So I'm going to have people be like, this is from your kid's doctor's office. We heard on your podcast that this might be a better way to get in touch
reach you.
So tell me honestly how your back to school experience is going. How is our experience going? The Fulweilers are chilling. We're fine because we have always homeschooled. Now, our oldest two do go to school. They wanted that friends thing. They heard all about. And I was like, you have friends on the internet. Okay, so half of them are probably 40-year-old men, but the other half are probably real friends who are nice and you've met. But no, they wanted to go to school. But our 4 youngest are homeschooled. So it's only my 2 high school kids who go to school. And so no problems over here. We've always homeschooled. So we have a system for the younger ones. And then the older ones, they are having the same problems that you guys have with the Zoom calls, and different teachers have different systems, and it is impossible to keep up with it all virtually. And you're basically the IT department in your house. That's what all the parents are telling me right now. I'm the IT department in my house. Suddenly, I know about things I never wanted to know about, like megabits per second. if you take the flex capacitor and plug it into the router, and that's what we've become. But that's you guys, because I put my 2 high school age children on a special life skills program called Manage Your Own Virtual School. Manage Your Own Virtual School, because mom actually is technical and could figure this stuff out, but the managing all of the different, this assignment is turned in this way and you use Zoom for this and Google Classroom for that. This is a life skills program where they just get to figure all of that out for themselves. So it's not, we're fine. The Fulweilers are fine. And by the way, as a service to you guys, I have not announced this anywhere. This is special podcast listener only info. I am about to have a series of videos together where it's Joe and I telling you everything about our homeschool system. It's easy and it doesn't take a lot of parent time. And we just answered every question. We went into the whole thing. That was actually supposed to already be out, but it's still in production. So you can look forward to that. That's coming soon. Even if you just want to temporarily homeschool because school is not working, that it should help you out. So that's coming. But my friend's experience is not like mine. Let me give you an impression of every mom I have spoken to in the past 2 weeks. They're like, Jen, these kids have got to go back to school. I don't care. They're about to call up these schools and be like, take them on a field trip to the Wuhan lab. I don't care anymore. I don't care. I need these kids out of the house. Like, fine, I'll sign the permissions. If you're going to the Wuhan lab, you're going to try some local cuisine, like wontons and authentic egg rolls and bat soup. But I don't care. Get these kids out of this house. That is every single mom that I know right now. So I'm coming in. I am here to bring you a little bit of peace. And what I'm about to say even applies if you are blessed and you're having a lovely fall. You're adding a pop of color to your living room and putting a vase, like your life is that good that you're putting a vase of flowers on your kitchen table. What I'm about to say applies to you as well, because it's just general life management stuff that I have found really helpful. So let me begin by saying, if you are one of those parents who is really struggling with your kid's work and your kid is younger than high school age, here is a perspective that I would like for you to consider. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Does it? Think about it. Does it really matter? Well, should I walk that back or not? I'm going to go with no. I don't think it matters that much. Elementary and junior high education, the big picture of it, of course, yes, it is formative. This sets up the foundation for the rest of our kids' lives. Macro level, it matters. It matters a lot. Micro level, what happens in 1 6-week period, even one semester, is that going to make or break your kid's future? Is it really that big of a deal? Here is my expertise for talking about this. Not just that I have 6 kids. I mean, if anything, having a big family has just shown me how bad I am at so many areas of life. Shady knows this is true. However, I am a person, I have a long storied history of creating really big problems that don't need to be big problems. And looking back, I was flipping out about something. I was making everyone in my house miserable. I was making myself miserable. I was lying awake at night. And then I look back and I'm like, that really wasn't that big of a deal. And this is the perspective that moms who are a little bit ahead of me in their parenting journey, they would try to tell me, like, honey, this stuff that you are flipping out about, when your kids are 20, 30, 40 years old, you will look back and see that this was not the big deal that it seemed to be. And so I am here today, here on the newly revised This Is Jen podcast. I am here today to give you permission to not worry so much about your kids' schoolwork this 6 weeks, especially if they are in elementary school or junior high. Now, high school kids, if they're trying to get into colleges might be looking at these transcripts. That could matter more. I still think it doesn't matter as much as we think it does. Could matter more. But man, let me tell you, if you are losing any sleep at all over what is going on with your fifth grader, like you can't keep up with this one worksheet and then they might get a late grade on, they might get 10 points off. Like think of someone you knew who was a disaster. We all have those friends, right? I'm thinking of someone in particular who won't be named. Now, Shady's never met anyone who's a disaster.
No.
But I have, she hangs out with musicians and they're all like, they have side jobs as life coaches, as health consultants.
Oh yeah.
Never met anyone who you could call a train wreck.
Not at all.
And so think
I'm
about
not one either.
Right.
Don't even say that.
Right. No, not when I look in the mirror. That's
not what I see.
Right. Same with me, Shady. Same with me. So think of that friend. And the friend I am thinking of, by the way, is one of the favorite friends I've ever had. A fabulous girl. One of those friends that I don't know if jails still do this, but when you would get thrown in jail, you'd have to do a collect call. And it was sort of just a normal thing that I would get a call and it would be like, hello, this is let's call her. I guess all we do is make up fake names on this show.
Yeah.
Let's call her Zelda. All right. So that's my that. Zelda is my friend. So it was a routine that it would be like, hello, this is the Williamson County Jail with a call from Zelda. And like she'd always need me to get her out of jail for various storied reasons. So she was fantastic. A great friend.
You're like great times.
Good times. But train wreck. And, you know, and one time I sat down with her and I said, what made you this way? That you are living this kind of destructive lifestyle that would lead you, you're hooking up with all these men and doing illegal activities, being familiar with illegal substances, the types of things. You're very familiar with the local law enforcement. What, you know, where did you go wrong, Zelda? I said to her one time, and she looked me in the eyes and she said it was that fifth grade worksheet. It was the math worksheet.
I knew it.
Yeah, that worksheet started the whole path that led her down the road of real story, something that actually happened while I was friends with her. Her boyfriend traded her car, a Cadillac, for a crack rock.
Bro,
and it was all because of that fifth grade worksheet. And this is an important cautionary tale of how much you all need to be stressing to make sure that your kids' worksheets get turned in on time, or else all of them will have significant others that trade their cars for crack rocks. See, no, that's not. That is not how any of this works. Your child's future does not hinge that heavily on what is going on with the details of this worksheet or that worksheet, especially before they get into high school. And it's easy to lose perspective on that because, again, we do understand that the macro level does matter. That, yeah, sure, you can't blow off elementary education entirely. Believe me, I've tried. You can't do it. So we rightfully sense that it matters. But listen, if they have 6 weeks where they get some bad grades because you couldn't handle, you know, this teacher has this one proprietary software that you have to use to join the class, and then this other has another way you turn this in. And if you can't keep up with it, and you need to say at some point, I have other things going on in my life. I do not have time to have my new part-time job be IT, tech support, private tutor for my children. I would say it's okay if we just need to call this 6 weeks a loss. It's okay to call it a loss. And here's the thing. I think that teachers are going to be very forgiving right now. The teachers that I've talked to have said, it's hard for us too. We are so sympathetic for parents. We're barely keeping our heads above water. We know that the parents are struggling. So look, if you come to your kid's teacher And you say, yeah, we've been late on a couple of things. I'm really trying as hard as I can, but here's my situation. I've mentioned before, my husband was raised by a single mother, and she had to work 50, 60 hours a week just to put food on the table. There's no way that she could have done this. She had to be out there hustling to support her little family of her and her son. There's no way that she could have kept up with this. And teachers tend to be really sympathetic right now. So don't get overly stressed about this. And remember, especially if your kids are younger than high school, it doesn't matter that much. Now, here's where it gets interesting. I mentioned before that I used to really flip out about things that, looking back, I did not need to flip out about, especially when it comes to academics, especially when it comes to the kids' school stuff. The most powerful exercise I ever did to bring peace to my life in this department was to sit down with my husband and have some big picture, wild dream conversations about what really matters in life. What do we want our family to stand for? What do we hope for our kids? For our kids who are old enough to start thinking about this kind of thing, what kind of post-high school life do we imagine for them? And here's the thing. When I was growing up, middle class, middle America lifestyle, it was just assumed that we had to work really hard in school to get top grades so that we could go to college. And even though a lot of us, we didn't want to go to top schools. My husband went to Yale. That was not, that wasn't my path. I went to the University of Texas, great school, loved that experience. I actually started out at Texas A&M. I ended up graduating from the University of Texas, but I was constantly being pushed to do all of these extracurricular activities and things that were good for a college resume and all that sort of thing, when at that time, it was the bar to get into that school. I was definitely going to hit it. My grades were really solid. I had enough extracurricular activities. And yet I found myself getting pushed to be on a treadmill that was really more for kids who, if I were trying to go to Harvard, it might have made sense to go to the 7 a.m. daily National Honor Society meeting and try to become president of it. But as it was, I was like, can you imagine? Shady's trying to imagine me running a National Honor Society meeting. I'd be like, first order of business, the meetings are now at 10 p.m.
I'm trying
Let's
to
just get
imagine
this
you
straight
up,
away.
before 9 a.m. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, and I'll be like, okay, it's National Honor Society. We're all smart. Like, how can we buy alcohol underage? That would be my National
You're running
Honor
the
Society
fake ID.
meeting. Right. And so I there was all of this pressure that I felt, not just from my parents, just from the adults around me, to check the boxes that everyone else was checking, even though I realized early on, I'm not trying to be working at Goldman Sachs in Manhattan, making a gazillion trillion dollars a year. Certainly my career history would verify, like, no one's trying to make money around here. But that I knew that was not the right path for me. When it comes to academics and traditional career paths, that I wasn't type A in that sense. And I ended up getting a lot of pressure to waste a lot of time. Whereas if I'd been in a culture where people had said, why don't we look at the path that seems to be developing for you and your unique giftings, you might be able to spend your time in a way that would be more meaningful and get you closer to where you want to go. And this applies to all of our kids as well. So often we push them to do all of this stuff and to engage in all of this misery without ever taking a step back and saying, is this really in line with where this particular kid seems to be going? And what this really comes down to is it is a goal-oriented way of living. And this is something that this did not used to be obvious to me at all. The way I used to see life up until my early to mid 20s, I looked at it like what happens to you in life and where you go in life you just kind of get on the treadmill. Like I said, it was, well, you join the clubs that you need to join that quote unquote look good on a college resume, even though no one ever talks to you about exactly where you might want to go to college. And then you get the right grades, you play the right sports, and then you just go to whatever college you can get into, and then you get the nice stable job, like you'd be an accountant or something like that. And life just sort of comes at you, and you don't feel like you are that in control of it. I had a very take what you can get mentality. And then I met my husband. So I was just out of college. He had just finished business school. I mentioned he went to Yale. He also went to Columbia Law School and Stanford Business School. So he's a super, and he grew up poor, raised by a single mother. I mean, this wasn't like Daddy Warbucks pulling strings to get him into these schools. So he's obviously a super, super motivated person. And I will never forget with this. So one of the first times that he and I went to coffee, we worked together. And he said, yeah, this past weekend, my friends and I got together and we had a goal setting session where we just talked about kind of where we're going and some career goals and some different things that we're trying to do. And I didn't know him really at all at this point. And he said, so what did you do this past weekend, Jennifer? And so I thought to what I did that past weekend. I was hanging out with a group of friends at a party where a gentleman, a friend of a friend, collapsed his lung from a bong hit.
Oh.
So that's,
You're
so
like,
Joe and
do
I
I say that out loud?
Yeah, right. No, but no. So when Joe asked, I was like, I just socializing. I just kind of was. We did goal setting too, because we had a goal of he has to go to the ER now because he collapsed his lung from a bong hit. So that we are also, my friends and I are goal-oriented people, like you. So
as long as you got the goal
right, he was
your
fine.
list.
He was fine. It's okay. He was fine, and that wasn't me. But I wasn't a collapsing my lungs from bong hits kind of person. I just
called the taxi.
That was my friends. I'm making my former group of friends sound really bad in this episode, which was an unintentional result of it. So this was a whole different way for me to think about life. The idea of setting goals. Joe was like, well, so all right, here's what we talked about in my goal setting session. He said, that, where do you want to be in 10 years? I'd honestly never thought of it. It's hard to describe. I didn't know that was an option. I didn't know that you could think about life that way. I thought of it like, well, I guess whatever happens in 10 years. And he got me to start thinking of life like I am the captain of a ship. And that doesn't mean it will always go perfectly where I want to go. You might need to navigate around storms. You're not perfectly in control. But the way I'd been living my life like I was someone passed out on a lifeboat. That is how I'd been living my life. I'm just like, where am I going to go? Nobody knows. And Joe's like, look, you're the captain of this ship. Where do you want to go? And I've brought this up before. And one of the reasons I bring it up is that I've noticed in Catholic culture, and a lot of people who follow this podcast are Catholic, that my background is in Catholic media. So a lot of my current fans are very much from that world. And so I tell you guys, as someone who is an outsider, I was raised atheist. I didn't come from this world. And it's been interesting to me to see that, especially in the Catholic world, I see a lot of this resistance to goal setting. And it comes from this great Catholic view, which is good and true and solid, that, hey, God's in control. What can we even really control? Let's ponder the almighty nature of God. He created this whole universe and the galaxies and everything that's out there. Like if he created this whole thing and all life on planet Earth, like maybe I should just let God run things and not try to control things too much. And this is why, you've probably heard the phrase Protestant work ethic. You probably have not heard the phrase Catholic work ethic. That's not a thing. And like when you think about the countries that get things done in terms of technology and pushing things forward and innovation, notice that none of them are historically Catholic. Like no one is like, have you seen that mind-blowing new AI artificial intelligence app? It's Italian. The Italians really they got that done. I name any country like France. Nobody is like you know who's going to get us to Mars? The French. That's their, Elon Musk, watch out. The French have this lockdown. Yeah, the French are going to get us to Jupiter. They're such innovators. They're so hardworking. No, because these are Catholic cultures. And in Catholic culture, we're like, God's in charge, so I might as well drink some wine, have a bit of cheese, go meet with my 18 siblings and have a party because, what can we really do? God's in charge. I'm telling you, it is atheists and Protestants, they keep the world running. If it were up to us Catholics, I mean, this COVID thing wouldn't have been that big of a deal. Yet you wouldn't even notice quarantine. If we lived in a Catholic culture, it would be like, well, nobody was really working anyway, were they? So Catholic culture has a certain resistance to the idea of being too much in a goal-setting mentality, because there's this feeling that maybe you're trying to override God's plan, and who are we to know what's going to happen 10 years in the future and things like that. And part of that is a good thing. And I say this for those of you who are not Catholic too. If I may get into a little bit of philosophy here. Now, Shady, one of the great things about having you on-site producing as part of this podcast is, going on philosophical tangents is an art to add value and keep it interesting without seeming like you are a rambling lunatic. And like all art forms, it takes a while to master. And so I would like to think that my philosophical tangents are adding value to this podcast. However, maybe you could help me, like, because you're not Catholic. And
No.
so, and you're not into theology and all that. So if I start to get too deep into this stuff and it's getting boring.
I just
or-
need to
or just
grab
weird-
my lasso.
Well, grab your lasso. How about a bird call? Like,
Oh!
wait, no,
Wait, hold
no,
on.
that sounds like a woman in distress.
Oh!
Yeah, louder there.
Oh, that's more like, yeah, I like that one.
No, that's like what did that sound like? Like
I know, is that good?
Okay, that is your Jen is just, she's losing everyone and nobody, that's the
reel her
nobody
in.
cares bird call.
All right, got it.
So here we go. So I do think, and this is my perspective as a Catholic, but it applies to all of you, even if you are lifelong atheists like I was. This applies to everyone. I do think that some of the resistance to ideas that take goal setting too far, like manifesting, everyone has heard that, The Secret, manifesting, things like that. Some of the resistance to that sort of idea is healthy, because the reality is that God is love. That's the whole concept behind God. God is love. Are they with me so far? I haven't
think
lost them
so.
yet, right?
Not yet.
And God is good. To quote a philosopher, okay, it was a blogger, but you know what? Whatever. Like this is, to quote the great philosopher CatholicMom86.blogspot.com.
How many times do I have to do it to get your attention?
Well, let me. Okay, but wait, you don't know what I'm going to say.
Okay, so I've got to try to let you finish.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
go ahead.
So try.
Let's see if I think it's interesting.
Right,
I might let you
like,
finish.
No,
I might let you finish.
No, it just sucks. Like, just stop. But wait, just get okay. When we say God is good,
Sorry, I'll let you go again.
Okay, Shady is running sound. This is when people's mics get cut on this show. But I can't be like, hey, cut your own mic. When we say God is good, we're not saying what God is. We're saying what good is. That God is the source of all goodness. And so even though he lets bad things happen in the world, and that is due to original sin and the doctrine of free will that we do. That I probably need the bird call. Okay. All right. Look, look, if you seek God, and this is a universal statement. This isn't me being deep in the glowing core of the Catholic ghetto like I have been previous to this point. I'm making a general statement. To seek God and the will of God is to seek love and to seek what is good. And so when you buy The Secret and you start manifesting things, essentially you're trying to override God. You're like, well, sure, God had a plan for my life, but I'm not going to seek out what that is.
Okay, God.
Right? Okay, God.
All right.
Because I want a 10,000 square foot house with a hot tub full of Cheetos. That's a good vision, right? Not water, because I'm not a water person.
Yeah, Cheetos are good.
A hot tub full of Cheetos and a butler who brings me Cristal on the hour every hour.
Jeeves, please.
Yeah, Jeeves.
Come on.
And so when we just manifest these things, like, God, step aside. If hot tub full of Cheetos was not your will, I'm just going to manifest it. I read The Secret. I'm going to go around you. I'm going to manifest it. You are turning away from the good. And that is why I think we're out of thank you, Shady, for your
bird calls.
Yes,
thank you.
you.
I'll work on them too.
We're out of the tangent now. I think we've all survived. This is good. You can all look up Shady on Instagram, and you can thank her for keeping me in line. So I think that there is this reticence, especially in my circles, to take goal setting too far, where you are essentially trying to usurp God. You're not trying to find out what his will is for your life or for your kids' lives or anything like that. That reticence is good, but you can take it too far. And I see a lot of people taking that too far. And then they don't plan anything in their lives. And then as soon as things get hard and they're trying to do something, they're trying to make something happen, they just give up and they say, oh, it's not God's will. So all of that is to say that some kind of loose goal setting will change your life. And you know what will change your life even more is when you bring your family into it. That is the second mistake that I see everyone make when it comes to goal setting. They might set goals for themselves, but they don't think as a family. They tend to think in a very individualistic mindset. And this is not how we were created to live. This is not how we were meant to approach life. I mean, look at any time and place in human history before about 100 years ago, and people lived in communities and villages and tribes. We were meant to think of our lives as being in the context of our family and of our community, of our village. And modern parents have this idea that, well, I can't set goals with my family. I can't set goals for my family because, that might take away my children's autonomy. Oh, what if they didn't have perfect freedom over what they do with their lives because we as a family had a goal of going this direction, but they wanted to go this direction? I might say that's actually really healthy. That is the glue that bonds families together. And in fact, I mentioned my husband's experience being raised by a single mother. He couldn't do whatever he wanted. He had a lot of obligations based on the goals that he and his mother set together to improve their circumstances, to get out of poverty. And to this day, they are super, super close. They have a great relationship. And I've often said, my husband, he doesn't have baggage like the rest of us do. He is one of the most mentally stable people I know. And I think a lot of that came from the fact that he was such a close unit with his mom, that their little 2-person family was a very close family. And what made them a close family? That they set goals together and they accepted the personal sacrifice that comes along with that. That's not a bug, it's a feature. That is a feature, not a bug. Asking your kids to sacrifice for the greater good of the family. So what does this all have to do with you not caring about your kids not being able to get their 5th grade worksheets done? I cannot recommend strongly enough that you take some time to sit down with your spouse, if you have one. Start with the adults. So if you're a single mom, if you're a single dad, but maybe get together with another mom or dad friend to talk about this kind of thing. And just think, let's go through each one of the kids that we have. What course do they seem to be on? How are their gifts and talents shaping up? Where does their life seem to be going? And if you have a kid that you think, I bet this kid might want to go to some big fancy school. Like this kid is definitely going to want to go to Oxford. This kid wants to be the next Elon Musk. Whereas this other kid, it really seems like they are definitely going to do something in the arts, and they just don't want to be part of the system. They don't care about going to Harvard or Yale or Oxford. That's not who this kid is. So when you start to look at each one of your kids, look at their gifts and talents and where they seem to be going, and start to, with them, loosely set goals that are a fit with your overall family mission, with their personal mission. It really takes a lot of stress off of you as a parent, because the day-to-day decisions of, do we need to join this extra club? Is it really worth it for them to try out for this one sport just because it looks good on a college resume? Well, there's not one pat yes or no answer. If the kid is trying to get a college scholarship in baseball, that is a whole different answer than if this kid his life dream is to be a musician, and he might go to college to just get the degree out of the way, might not, but it's that he's not trying to get into Oxford. Well, those are two totally different decision trees for how much you get stressed about the day-to-day work that is put in front of this kid. We probably needed the bird call somewhere in there.
I was like intrigued. I was listening. Yes,
See,
I was following.
This is great to have Shady. When I was just talking to myself alone in a room, I'd be like, have I lost everyone? Okay, so Shady's.
No, I'm like glued.
Oh, okay, good. At least Shady's with me. She's my one listener. She's loving
right
this.
here.
Right, so look, the bottom line is, let's take it back to that moment when you've just got the new assignment and you don't know how to turn it in, and it's for your 2nd grader, and they're just supposed to do the coloring sheet, but you don't know how to upload it to the software, and if you don't get it uploaded by midnight, they're gonna get 20 points off of their grade. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's whatever that kid's long-term goal is. That worksheet is not going to matter. Your kid can get all C's and D's this one semester. Think about this. Any institution that would ding your kid, especially a kid younger than high school, because during the height of the COVID lockdown craziness, they had one bad 6-week period. Do you want your kid to be part of that institution? If my kids are, let's take my kid who's 9 right now. If one day she's applying to a college and they're like, well, we would let you in, but
looking back at your 4th grade.
Yeah. In 2020, that was you had a bad first semester. That fall semester,
it's not
2020.
looking good. It's not looking
I don't
good.
want her going to that stupid school. Any institution that does not give my family grace for what happened in the first semester of 2020. Just spilled coffee on my... No, I'm going to keep going. Any institution that does not give me and my children grace for what happened in the first semester of 2020. Okay, now it's about to fall on the floor. I will not be part of it. They can have their, whatever it is, a college, a country club.
Throw the whole institution away.
Yeah, because country clubs might do that.
Yeah, they might do that.
Seemed like a random example, but
true.
they might be like, well...
Your sweaters aren't white enough.
15 years from now, they might be like, we were going to let you into Augusta National, but we saw that in 3rd grade, it just wasn't good. It was that
fall 2020,
You're great. You got C's.
If you couldn't do that, how are you going to be able to do this? Like, right now, why should I let you in?
Yeah, and I'd be like, keep the masters, keep the golf course. Any institution that doesn't give you grace right now, you don't want to be a part of it. So, to wrap this up, if your child is younger than high school, stop stressing about that. It doesn't matter. Let them get bad grades this 6 weeks. It doesn't matter. I don't think the teachers are even really expecting you to do all of this extra work that you have to do to keep your kids on task. And I would say if your kids are in high school, and mine are, they go to out of the house high school, put them on the same life skills program that my kids are on, where you're like, look, hey, if you can't figure out how to log into the Zoom study hall, then can you really make it in the real world? They're doing fine. They're doing well. But that's the main advice I would give for those of you who have high school kids. I'm not, and I say this not even in jest, I'm dead serious. This is really a time for them to learn about the real world and for them to learn that mom and dad do not have 10, 20, 30 hours a week to be tutors and IT staff, and it's time for them to get some of this stuff done on their own. All right, this is the part of the new and improved This Is Jen program where we will start going to calls. I don't have that set up quite yet, but we will have that very soon. And you can call me at 512-222-3523. The question I am asking right now is honestly, seriously, level with me. How is your school experience going? But you can honestly tell me anything. And as I said earlier, I've had people already leaving me voicemails saying that you can't play this on the air, but I just wanted to tell you what's going on, and they're great. And again, I check this number personally. So it is honestly a better way to reach me than like having my personal cell phone number, which I mostly ignore. 512-222-3523. I've already gotten some nice calls, really nice feedback on social media. And one of the things for those of you who have been able to see this on YouTube, people say they like the look and feel of it. They like being able to see what some people said, what makeup I'm doing today, how I did my hair today, which I appreciate. That is the kind of chat that I am here for. And I will say, you guys can tell I am using a green screen. That is where, as I film this, the wall behind me is green. And then we take that out and we could add anything. I mean, I could do a background like it looks like I'm coming to you from a space shuttle or a garden. Shady, what crazy place could I look like?
Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. Yeah, I'm like shouting. Hang on, the robot band. They're almost done. The gorilla has started his drum solo. You should be able to hear me in just a second. We use a green screen. And I realize that you can sort of tell this is not the Avengers, the final scene of the Avengers, which was famously shot in front of a green screen, and you can't tell at all. I mean, you're actually on that trash planet with them. It was a trash planet. Or was that Earth?
I don't know.
I can't remember. Well, I didn't mean to call Earth a trash planet, but the end of the Avengers was on a green screen. Yeah, we don't have that kind of technology here at This Is Jen. You can kind of see it, but someone said, why don't you use a real background, Jen? Create a nook in your house, a nook with a bookshelf, a curio cabinet in the background that shows your personality. That's what a lot of people do on YouTube is they'll have items of interest in the background. Let me tell you this. There is not 4 square feet of space that I could ever keep clean. Somehow my kids would be over here in the studio and it would be some weird blob slime is on the shelf. And then my kids would for sure do this. They would put some book on the bookshelf. They would hide it. And it would be like, how to get rid of the rash on your butt. True. My kids would literally, and Shady knows they would get you. They really would. And I'd film a whole episode and that would be in the background.
And that would be hilarious.
So that is why we're on a journey with the green screen. But look, it's for sure going to stay a green screen. I cannot have any kind of real background. And then, maybe I'll put a beautiful house in the background. Like, I'm coming
put
to
a
you.
Picture of what that would look like. Get a
You know how a lot of people, I know a surprising number of people who name their houses. And so I can be like, I'm coming to you from Fulweiler Manor.
The Fulweilerium.
Yeah, from the, that's really good. I'm coming to you from the Fulweilerium. Or, yeah, it could be like Tree Hollow, or I don't know. We can work on the name. But I'll close with this story that I did not intend to share. So let me think through a palatable way to share this story. So the reason I know that if I had a real bookshelf background, that my kids would find some wildly inappropriate book and put it on there is because Joe and I had this idea. And I'm sure that our kids inherited our rabble-rousing nature. So back before we had kids, when we were dating, we thought it would be funny to get some crazy book, like something wildly inappropriate. And then when we go to parties at friends' houses, just sneak it on their shelf and just leave and just
That's
let
amazing.
Isn't that it?
That's like
visionaries.
The long game prank style.
Right.
You're playing the long game for that one.
Exactly. But okay, so here's what happened. Here's what happened with that. So we got this book called Nude Bowling. So this book, the cover's weird. The inside pages are weird. It's all about how to be a nudist bowler. It's something like that. I don't know if that was the exact title, but it was close. But then here's what happened. Joe and I got really busy. We worked in tech. We were working a lot at the time. And we kept meaning to bring it to people's parties. And we didn't want to throw it away because it was out of print and you couldn't find it again. And it was the perfect book. So long story short, it ended up on our bookshelves. When we moved into the suburban house that we live in today, I think we had someone help it. Right. We had I guess my mom or someone came over and unpacked our bookshelves and just all of the books got put on there. And this is when we were about to have our third baby in 3 years. So we were super, super, super not on top of life. And we had lived in our suburban home a year and, converted to Catholicism. We were a nice, respectable family at this time. When I was walking by our bookshelves and I see nudist bowling right there, because you can't make this stuff up, it was next to the Catechism of the Catholic Church. It was Catholic Catechism, nudist bowling. And that, Shady, is confirmation that there is actually a God.
You played yourself.
This is, I don't want to say karma, but this is God teaching me. This is God teaching us lessons about you try to prank people and you end up with the nudist bowling book on your own bookshelf. I didn't intend for this to be the way that we end the second episode of the newly relaunched This Is Jen podcast. Nevertheless, that is how it has shaken out. Thank you very much. Hallie Lord doing all the yeoman behind the scenes work. So much behind the scenes work. Shady Ray, thank you for your bird
Thank
calls.
you for having me.
In line,
I'll work on those on my free time this week.
For setting up this studio. And thank you to me for nailing throw pillows to the wall. I think you guys can tell me if you hear a difference in the audio quality. I think it makes a difference. Please leave a comment on YouTube, whether you are listening to this podcast version or YouTube version. Leave a comment so that they know that I am not a Russian bot who started a fake account. And I will be back with more soon here on This Is Jen.